Right, Joe, let's get cracking with the show. This week we saw some pretty cool Champions League action. Did we? A lot of epic players. It was cool. I enjoyed it.
I like that.
A lot of epic Champions League players in action. Of course, there's some that are already through as well. So it got us thinking about ranking some of the players. A little start, bench, sell theme we're thinking of bringing back.
Yeah,
Tell us
absolutely.
the rules, mate.
There's really top-level players in every position this season, aren't there? So what we're going to do today is we are going to go position by position, start, bench, sell. We're going to start then with left wing because the talent in this area this season, we're going to focus all of these answers on this season, by the way. Vinicius, Rafinha and Bradley Barcola, all three players having sensational seasons so far. Who are you going to start, who are you going to bench, who are you going to sell? Let's have a look at your boards.
Not sorry.
Oh my gosh, Loz.
Not sorry. You've got to make the format interesting, guys. You've got to make them more interesting. Otherwise, we're all just going to sit around and agree for the next 20 minutes,
I respect it.
Yeah.
Sell Vinicius Junior, Loz.
Sell Vinicius Junior.
Why?
Yeah. First of all, I just like to boil Real Madrid fans' blood. It's good fun, isn't it? I love Vinicius Junior as a player, but I think it's a real shame he plays for Real Madrid. But at the same time, I also think that he's not quite had the season that everyone thought he should be having at this point. And I think there are clearly other players in Europe who are setting numbers records alongside some of the greats in the Premier League. And then I think this young man, I love watching him. I think he'd be great off the bench. So I see good value there for Marseille. I see good value off the bench, and I see someone who, when he starts, is undeniable.
I mean, Rafinha, the context is great, actually. Rafinha has been on unbelievable form. But context, we can give you some context for all comps. Barcola, 15 goals, 7 assists in all comps. Rafinha, 21 goals, 10 assists in all comps. 16 goals, 12 assists in all comps. For Vinny, you've gone with Rafinha.
Why are you pandering to the public?
No, I think Rafinha, obviously this season, you've mentioned the stats there, he's been outrageous.
Yeah.
I think we're starting to finally see the guy that, Leeds fans in particular believed could be one of the best wingers in the world. We were fortunate to see him in the Premier League. He's absolutely killing it over for Barcelona in Spain and in the Champions League. I mean, under Hansi Flick, they are looking incredible. The reason I'd still go with Vinny over Barcola, I think Barcola is a really interesting prospect. Someone who's having a good season. The PSG squad, now that they don't have any kind of superstar in Neymar, Messi or Mbappe, the others are allowed to thrive a bit. And I think that's what we've seen with Barcola.
Do you think that might help them in a way?
Yeah, definitely. I think as a team, it allows you to... they've almost built a team that gels really well together.
Yeah, as a team rather than individuals.
Exactly. I mean, when they had that front line of Mbappe, Neymar and Messi, I mean, there's no, tracking back from the front three, is there? And it meant that the others had to do so much work. Whereas now, it really is a good team. They've got a fantastic manager there as well. However... this is still Vinny Jr., multiple Champions League winner. When he's on it, one of the best players in the world. Probably should have won the Ballon d'Or last season as well.
Shouldn't.
You think?
Rodri was a better player over that season.
I think Rodri the season before should have maybe won it. Last year, I think it should have been Vinny. Basically, even though he's not having the season that Rafinha's having, by any means, he is still better than Barcola.
Okay.
And I get that. I just don't know, are we hating on the youth here, guys?
Okay, fine. Next up, strikers. We go to 3 huge names for this category.
Do you know, can I just say the real challenge for this, Smithy?
I haven't even done the link yet, but go on.
Well, it doesn't matter. The real challenge in this one is actually just remembering what you said beforehand.
Right. Haaland, Mbappe and Kane.
And remembering why I wanted to annoy Smithy.
Oh my
God. I knew that would be a reaction.
Wow.
We all knew it, Smithy. Yeah. Why is Laurence being contrarian?
How on earth have you got Harry Kane, the most informed striker statistically in world football, as sell?
Boring.
And also, Loz, just going back to your previous answer where you're talking contextually, is he not the least sellable asset of the 3?
Well, so I think he's probably the most sellable asset of the 3. This guy's only just come in at Real Madrid. I think he's still got a lot of space to run into in terms of in the team. I like Haaland, but I actually think if Haaland wasn't this prolific, we go, what a great player to bring off the bench. He comes on, he's got a very solid job, you can hit the ball up to him.
Based on this season we're doing this on?
Yeah.
Oh my word! What am I looking at here?
Wow!
You're
too much of a homer. You love this guy.
No, I'll give you some stats. I thought you might say that, so I'll give you some statistics to back them up. Mbappe, 23 goals this season. 27 goals this season for Haaland, 29 goals this season for Harry Kane. So he's ahead of the way in goals.
Yes.
He's ahead of the way since the start of last season as well. Harry Kane, more goals in all competitions than any other player from Europe's top 5 leagues since the start of last season.
Prolific.
He is the most informed striker in the world.
That's
and
true.
I actually think he's in Ballon d'Or territory if Bayern Munich win the Champions League because of the numbers he's putting up. He's got comparable numbers to Salah, who's quite rightly in the conversation. So to have you both in sell, I think, is mind-blowing.
Well, also, I think I'll get the value in the market for him there as well, Smithy. But I also think with Harry, right, he's having a bad season by his levels. And how many goals did you say he's got? 23.
23.
Yeah. 23. And he's having a fine season, but he's having a bad season. If this is his bad season, and I'm still
based on this season.
A new club, and new surroundings, in a team that still isn't quite gelling together. I think the thing is, we can talk about this season, we can. But there is an element where you watch Mbappe, you have to think about what he is beforehand, what he's done for France, what he's done for PSG.
You do yours, mate, and tell me. Go on, you do yours, and then show me what you do.
The others doesn't matter. But with Mbappe, there's a level where there are certain players out there who just have it. And Kane's very, very good. Been unbelievably good this season. But Mbappe just has it. Where at some moment, and Kane can do it as well, but there's like best player in the world quality about Mbappe. There's arguments that it is with Haaland.
I think there is.
And Kane,
for all of them.
Yes, but Kane, we know what he is. We know what's going to happen. Whereas I think with Mbappe, you can still dream about this guy being the best player we've made.
I think all-round game as well. If you watch a lot of what Bayern are doing, the way that he brings players in, his assists, his numbers, I think actually, contextually, he's been great. I know what you're saying about Mbappe. You're thinking he can be a match winner in a Champions League
final. But do you not think as well, in the Bundesliga...
I think sell for both of you is...
By the way, there is a big chance, actually, that we see, based on the context of what you've given, but also around here, he won't make the Champions League final. He very likely could make the Champions League final this year. I would put Bayern as more likely to make it this year, based on current form, than Real Madrid, though we know how Real Madrid are in the Champions League.
Let's go to the next one then. We've got more strikers to talk about next, so we'll rattle through them.
This is a good category,
this is an alternative strikers list, really. Those are the 3 of the biggest names. These are 3 very interesting names. We've got Victor Gyökeres, Julian Alvarez, and Serhou Guirassy.
Oh, wow, quick from Zach.
Yeah. They are definitely alternatives. However, it is kind of... You've got a guy that is doing ridiculous stuff in Portugal and proving it in Europe as well. He is maybe the hottest striker
He's
on
not
the
going to come
market
to your club,
right
mate.
I don't think he will. I think there are a lot of other clubs. But this summer,
somewhere.
But this summer is all about strikers. Every club's looking for a striker by the looks of it. And he is, obviously, numbers-wise, going crazy so far this season.
Yeah, I mean, that's an understatement. Do you think he is going to end up at Chelsea?
I don't think he'll end up at Chelsea, no. I think there's, obviously, you've got the links with Manchester United and the manager there. You've already got someone like Ugarte there. It makes sense if it ended up there. Arsenal are going to be after a striker, it feels like. He's going to have a number of clubs, a number of suitors after him. As for Alvarez, again, I think at times this season, he's been the man for Atletico Madrid. He's been the guy to clutch up in the Champions League if needed. And for Guirassy, Dortmund aren't having a good season. And whilst Guirassy is doing well for them, the actual club itself, and in comparison to these two,
I hate to critique all your picks, though, Lars, because I'm a big... I like you a lot. But Guirassy Sell, he's the top scorer in the Champions League this season, obviously basing it on the Champions League in this season. So why is he in the sell category for you? Just because of the profile of player, or...?
More profile of player, you're right. I just think first of all, I'm a big Julian Alvarez fan. I think he's actually massively underrated.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And that's partially because of the run he had in the Premier League where what?
I just know somebody in this room who isn't a massive fan of...
Are you not a massive fan?
He's all right, yeah.
I think...
OK.
Yeah, good chat. I think he's got a lot more grit and spirit than a lot of people give him credit for, and I appreciate that in a player. I also think his finishing is exceptional, and I think he's the player that, for me, breaks the system the most.
Okay.
So he's the one that outside the system, for me, would thrive the most. Very good. Their system really plays to his strengths. Very good. The system really plays to his strengths.
OK,
let's go to the next
I don't know
one.
what happened within that category. There's something going on between you two, but we'll move on to the next category.
No, nothing.
Next one. Right wingers. Oh, OK.
This is impossible.
Salah, Dembélé, Yamal.
Good luck.
Based on this season, 3... I mean...
And let's not forget Dembele's got 18 goals in his last 11 games.
Yeah, he does.
Joe's the ultimate presenter that undermines whatever it is that you've just held up. Whatever Joe sees, Joe goes, here's a good stat for you.
Loz, we're slightly critiquing some of Loz's picks, so let's give Loz...
That's fine.
No, they've both got the same.
You both got the same. To be fair for this one, I think,
Guys, we didn't come here to have a boring conversation, did we? No one wants just everyone to sit around and agree around the table. First of all, this guy's prolific.
Yeah,
He's
unbelievable.
His numbers reflect the fact that if he continues the rate that he's at, that we know that sometimes Mo Salah doesn't, but based on it so far, he would be at his best season ever as Mo Salah.
Incredible.
And the age that he's at, with the contract situation that is hanging over his head, what he now represents for Liverpool, I think this guy still, weirdly, is underrated, right? Lamine Yamal, for his age, he's at the opposite end of the spectrum now to Mo
17
Salah.
years old.
Massively rated, great age, great team. System plays to everything that is his strength. I love watching him. I can get on board with that. The PSG aspect, I think, is where he's probably let down. I'd say career choices very often are a bad idea to go to PSG. If he was anywhere else, I think he'd probably be further up the list.
He is thriving right now, though, Dembélé.
He is
in a big way.
100% for sure. But he's up against.
He's got 10 goals in his last 4 games.
But look at Lamine Yamal. How young is like, we don't see this very often of a guy who can come in, be the star of a team. He had a moment earlier, a couple of weeks ago, where he was dribbling through. It was Messi-esque, where he's dribbling through an entire team, and you're thinking, "Oh my goodness, this guy!" And he's already won the Euros. He's already looking like one of the best players in the world at such a young age.
Yeah.
And Dembélé can do whatever he does.
Most successful dribbles of any player per game in Europe, Lamine Yamal.
Obviously, it seems also self-evident as to why we put Salah in start, but I think Salah is also developing into a player that if you were to say, like, blank out Salah and say, who's that player, you could still tell it's Mo from the stuff he's doing. He's got like some signature moves.
Yeah, definitely.
His assisting this season has
he's
been
got
incredible.
that level.
The like outside of the boot assist that he does, so like consistently in any competition, I think is what really draws him apart.
14 Premier League assists Salah's got. 4 Champions League assists this season. It's an awful lot.
Will he win the Ballon d'Or?
I think he should be on the list for the Ballon d'Or, but I think he has to finish the season strong to get it. And another reason he doesn't always get Ballon d'Or nominations is obviously, you know, he can't change it, but Egypt is a big thing for him, and they often get overlooked.
All right, okay, let's go to the next one. This is an interesting one. I think this is one of the more interesting categories. It's 3 players that are, you know, particularly Ryan Gravenberch, who is having just an outstanding season. Defensive midfielders, Ryan Gravenberch, Declan Rice, João Neves. João Neves also having a really, really solid first season in Paris, but you've gone for you're going to sell Declan Rice. Let's come to you, Djellab.
Yeah, for this season, I think last season Declan Rice was amazing. Been very, very good. This season, I think, if we're honest, we're not looking at the same Rice that we had last year for Arsenal. I think we're not looking at the same Arsenal that were there last year. If this was the same Arsenal last year, they might be top of the league. They might be at least much, much closer to Liverpool. And so maybe I'm being harsh on him for the fact that the team accomplishments haven't been so good. João Neves doing crazy things for PSG and in the Champions League. One of the best midfielders in Europe right now. A fantastic purchase for them. Ryan Gravenberch, very rare you find a story like Ryan Gravenberch where the guy is he's brought in, not really favoured by Klopp last season. Everyone kind of thought it was a dud transfer, wasn't going to work out. Obviously, Slot comes in. Everyone spoke about Liverpool needed DM. They needed DM. They needed to find DM. They obviously tried to get Caicedo. Didn't work. Oh, now Slot has managed to get this guy being one of the best DMs in Europe, not just the league, in Europe. And so he has to be starting. In the league, he's definitely up there for one of the best.
Is that one of the best examples of a coaching change this season, like the positional change and system change that Slot's done for Ryan Gravenberch? Because he's just had an unbelievable season, hasn't he? And how much credit does Slot deserve for that?
Slot deserves a lot of credit, but I also think Ryan Gravenberch deserves a lot of credit for that.
Yeah.
First of all, it's player profiling, so they've just profiled the player correctly. I think Klopp, towards the end of his time at Liverpool, was trying to fit a lot of players into positions they weren't necessarily comfortable in. Cody Gakpo, even probably Darwin Núñez, even Ryan Gravenberch. There are plenty of people who are playing out of their comfort zone. Put him as part of that too, like Ajax, and he's in a great position. That's what's getting the best out of him. But not only that, he's playing alongside Alexis McAllister, I think is probably one of the best complementary, if not, he is the best complementary midfielder in the world. He's so good at judging what everyone else is doing. But the little drop of the shoulder every game is just so watchable. Yeah. But he's also amazing at covering for Trent when he's going up the field. He's amazing at snuffing out danger as it's coming down. I think that's what puts him ahead of these two for me. But I've got to say, I do think Declan Rice hasn't had the midfield complement that he needs, like he's had this season. Right. And I actually think Declan, the more the season has gone on, has actually grown into the role that he's got. And then he's just down here purely because I think these two have done well in the Champions League, particularly as well, and gone through to the next round automatically.
Yeah, I think Dex still had a good season.
Yeah,
I think still had a very good season. And also there's like set pieces and offers. Next one, this is great, this one. This is one of my favourites. Creative midfielders, Bellingham, Musiala and Wirtz. I think this is actually
this is the
one of the toughest of all of them that we've done.
I agree.
because in rehearsal we all disagreed on who goes where here. I think this is, and I think we're right because the guests are flopping a lot.
Well, I mean, if you look at the numbers alone,
yeah,
Florian Wirtz, 15 goals, 12 assists in all competitions this season.
Just as you said, Wirtz.
I actually changed it just for Joe.
But the reason we're coming from.
Well, the reason I'm selling Wirtz is because I think Wirtz will actually get sold.
Yeah.
So that's the reason he's gone.
Where do you think he's going to go?
I just think there's a big club in Europe. I've heard there's two massive clubs, one that play in like a sky blue in the UK and one that play in white in
Spain?
England?
One can dream.
Yeah.
You can dream.
Yeah. You know what? If he went to Spurs, I would give you guys a very good job at destroying him.
I would definitely take Florian Wirtz at Tottenham.
Would you?
Yeah. Definitely take him.
Definitely
take him.
I might actually swap those two, but it's kind of interchangeable. But I think Jude's grown into the season as well. I think he was actually not having a great season earlier on, but he's really grown into it for me.
Let's give you the 11 goals, 10 assists in all comps for Jude, 15 goals, 8 assists in all comps for Musiala, 15 goals, 12 assists in all comps for Wirtz. So Musiala in the sell category.
Just signed a new contract.
Yes, he did just sign a new contract.
Yeah,
I thought there might be something of him maybe coming to the Premier League one day. Obviously, he was part of Chelsea's academy before he went to Bayern.
Technically unbelievable.
I watched Leverkusen lift the title last season at their home ground, and it was incredible. He is genuinely magical. One of the most exciting footballers in the league. Can, again, create something out of nothing. He is a moment's player waiting to just explode. This is someone we're going to be talking about the Ballon d'Or for years to come. Musiala, I don't know if it's because he's at Bayern. I think Bayern players sometimes get, and this might have been a bit of what we were talking about Kane earlier. When you were at Bayern Munich, you just kind of, everyone knows you're really good.
Yeah.
Because Bayern always win the league normally, apart from last season. They normally win the league. I think because of that, you might actually get a little bit underrated. However, there have been moments in the Champions League for Musiala, but not enough where I'm thinking, okay, compared to someone like Wirtz, who really does have something special, and especially compared to someone like Jude Bellingham, who continuously, time after time, we saw it obviously recently for Real Madrid in the Champions League, is the guy every single time he's needed. And when Real Madrid are having a slow start to the season, obviously, because there's issues with them all gelling together, he is coming to the front every
He's the
single
ultimate
time.
clutch player.
He is, yeah.
I think he is.
Isn't he?
Last one. Last one. We're going to do debut seasons. So players that are making big impacts in their first Champions League campaign. Morgan Rogers, of course, Champions League hat-trick. Michael Elise, already crushing it for Bayern Munich. Just 11 goals, 12 assists in all comps. And Desiree Doué, who is having a really underrated campaign at PSG.
He has stats just before we put them up. Anything you want to say just before we turn?
Not too many, but I will say that Michael Elise's 5 goals in the Champions League this season is the most of any of them.
Yeah. I mean, Elise, we all knew he was a talent. We all knew he was exceptional, didn't we? And he's now at a club, as I mentioned earlier, about Bayern Munich, obviously doing crazy things. And we're seeing, and I always like to enjoy when you can see a player go from a side like Palace, obviously very respectable, but then go to a team where he is surrounded by other world-class players.
Yeah,
and you see their level go to the next one.
The goal midweek against Salah.
He's one of the best wingers in the world. He really, really is. He's able to do anything with the ball. He's physical as well. He has a decent amount of pace on him. He's creative. I think that's actually something that's not quite spoken about enough for him. But yeah, he's able to score worldies when needed as well. Bayern Munich got such a good player there for actually a pretty respectable fee. This is one of my favourite players to watch at the moment, especially this season. There's a little bit of like an old school midfielder about him, how he will pick up the ball and boss people through, physically so strong. Sometimes you look at that Man City midfield at the moment, obviously he came from the Man City Academy, obviously originally was at West Brom, but spent a long time at Man City, and you think, they could do with a midfielder like him, who will just bulldoze through midfield. And yeah, Desiree Doué, really nice midfielder, really good prospect. But just compared to these two, he doesn't really touch them.
Yeah.
Close control for these two. There's a lot of players in the PSG team at the moment that hit it past a player and then just chase it. And I'm not saying therefore that doesn't make him more skillful. I think he's great. I love his step overs, his close control. But I think these two at the moment are peaking in a way. They're a few years ahead of him. I feel that's only fair. he's also great in terms of he's good at dropping inside and then just combining with a couple of other players. And then I think Morgan Rogers is probably one of the best dribblers in the league for me.
Okay, total agreement to end it with. And if I was smiling during you announced it, it's because Maria RDA in my ear went woohoo as Morgan Rogers was announced as a big Villa fan. So I think she'll be happy that, put him in the start category.
There you go.
Let us know what you think of those selections at home. Enjoyed that.